This is David Taub with GV Wire. On the phone, I am talking with Tom Steyer, who you may have seen on TV and various ads advocating for positions that he believes in. He is a very well known Bay Area former hedge fund manager. And thank you for joining us, Mr. Steyer. Tom.
Total pleasure to be here, David.
All right, Tom, there's been speculation, and I'm going to ask you right off the bat. With all your involvement in these campaigns, do you plan to run for governor in 2018?
Well, I have been working full-time on the various aspects of the 2016 campaign all year long. And I intend to be working full-time on it right through the evening of November 8th. And I don't know what's going to happen. There are a whole bunch of questions still up in the air. What I do know is that after November 8th, I'm going to be working every bit as hard on the same issues that I'm passionate about and that I've been working on this year. I just don't know how, because until we learn what happens on November 8th, until we can see how California looks going forward, and until we can see how the United States is aligned going forward, it's hard to know how somebody can really have impact. And so I'll sit there and try and figure out who I can work with and how I can work to have the most impact on the issues that I'm passionate about. I just don't know yet because the information isn't in.
Well, sir, if that's any indication, you sound like a true politician there. But let's talk about this. Let's talk about this year's campaign. One of the issues that we see you on, or two of the ones that at least we've seen your face on TV commercials for, is let's talk about you and your getting out the vote effort. I know that you've had some impressive numbers in enrolling people to vote, but what's the number one reason you hear from people who say they just don't vote?
Well, let's just put it in perspective for a second, David, which is that there are 7 million Californians who could vote who don't vote. And that we believe really strongly that the broadest, deepest democracy is the most just form of government and also produces the best answers. So what we've tried to do is to go out. You can never really just register people to vote. We've worked with 60 organizations and we've registered over 800,000 Californians this year, which is the biggest voter registration drive, I think, in Californian history. But you can't. But that is obviously only part of the way there, because unless people are actually engaged in the system, interested, involved in the issues, and then go out and participate by going to the polling place or sending in a ballot, then you've really accomplished nothing. So your question was, under those circumstances, why aren't people voting? And the reason is, and we've tried to, of course, as part of this process, to understand that. And the reason that people don't vote is not because they're not intelligent, not because they're lazy, not because they don't care or know about the issues. The reason that people don't vote is because they have a sense that somehow their vote doesn't matter, that the system is unresponsive, and that therefore they're basically stepping away from it and not participating. And so a lot of what we've done throughout the year is to talk to people about the issues so that they understand both that there are very important issues at stake and that their vote really does matter, that having the broadest participation possible gets a very different answer than when only a certain number of people vote.
And what's your elevator pitch for the person who says, "Oh, well, I'm only one person, my vote doesn't matter"? What's your quick response to somebody who says that to you?
Democracy is not a spectator sport. If we expect as a people, as citizens, to elect the best people, and if we expect as citizens, when we're faced with propositions and direct democracy, to come up with the best answers, then everybody has to participate. This system works based on everybody pitching in and everybody both working for it and getting benefits from it. This is about a government representing our common interests in the best possible way. And we want that government to represent the broadest group of Californians possible. So therefore, everybody's voice together is the way we get the best answer. So actually, you're kind of letting the rest of us down if you don't give us your voice and your opinions too.
Right, another issue that we see you passionate about, because it seems like it's such a personal issue for you, is Prop 56 regarding the cigarette tax. Why are you in favor of Prop 56? And just tell us a little bit why it's a personal issue for you.
Well, I think Prop 56 is the $2 a pack cigarette tax. And from a policy standpoint, it's important to know that cigarette smoking is the number one cause of avoidable death in California, that it causes more deaths every year than traffic accidents, illegal drugs, and murder combined. So it's a huge issue. It also, treating health-related illnesses costs the state of California about $3.5 billion every year through Medi-Cal. So from a policy standpoint, raising the price by putting on a tax is the best way to prevent teenagers from starting, and using the money to prop up Medi-Cal to pay for some of the healthcare costs of smoking is also a very good way to deal with some of the shortfalls in the California budget. So that's the policy reason for why for Prop 56. On a personal level, I'd say two things. I think what you're referring to is the fact that my mom was a 3-pack-a-day smoker who died of lung cancer. And so this isn't, like many Californians, this isn't a theoretical issue that I've heard about. This is something where someone who obviously I loved smoked from the time she was a pretty middle teenager, and cost her years of her life. And so I know that the costs of this are very real and very personal. But the last thing I'd say is this. We have a much broader coalition fighting for Proposition 56 than has ever happened before. We have all kinds of business groups on our side. We have the police organization on our side. We have, basically pulled together where we've isolated the tobacco companies who are fighting against this tax. And let me say this. People have tried to raise tobacco taxes 17 times over the last, since 1998, and they've never gotten raised. And one of the reasons on a personal level that I wanted to be part of that coalition, I wanted to co-chair this campaign, is because I felt like there was a special interest, an organized economic interest in industry that was enforcing its will on the Californian citizenry again, and 17 times in a row. And we ended up with lower tobacco taxes than most of the states in the United States. And it just seemed like that isn't right. So there was a whole bunch of reasons, from policy to personal to kind of the structure of California politics, that said this is really something that's worth fighting for.
Now, one of the counters against the tobacco tax, I don't know if it's being made in this specific election, but in general, that it's considered a sin tax, and they question whether it's fair to tax somebody on what is a legal product in California and the country. So how do you respond to saying that it's not fair to tax something that's legal, and when your concern is youth smoking, well, a lot of adults smoke too, so is it fair to tax them?
Absolutely legal. But let me say this. It also, as I said at the outset, tobacco doesn't just kill people, it also ruins their health. And so we as citizens are already paying $3.5 billion to take care of the health-related problems of people who smoke. So I think something like 85% of the money that's raised from this tax goes to Medi-Cal, which is where working people get their health care in the state of California, and where in fact that $3.5 billion gets paid out. So from the standpoint of, is it fair? This is a product that causes huge costs to the state of California, including everybody who doesn't smoke. So in a way, this is a way of of trying to get this industry to pay the cost of the harm that it does, and the money that the state of California has to pay to take care of the problems that it causes. So I do think it's fair.
All right, two more things I want to bring up with you. Prop 57, which deals with the parole process for what they call nonviolent felons. It's getting a lot of negative support, or especially from the law enforcement community here in Fresno. They fear that it will cause more crime, because they cite that when Prop 47 was passed, they saw a double-digit increase in lots of crimes in the community. You support Prop 57. First of all, why do you support Prop 57, and how do you respond to people who feel this will increase crime in their community?
Well, we support Prop 57 because we believe it saves the state millions of dollars every year by encouraging nonviolent offenders to complete rehabilitation programs. And we think it's aimed at focusing resources on keeping dangerous criminals behind bars. So this is something which we have felt, that is the way that we should go. From our standpoint, those are two goals that California should have. And as we go forward, it's quite clear that the way that we're incarcerating people has got to be reformed, that we've gotten into some very extreme places, and this is an attempt to take a step in the right way to make sure that we both save money, encourage nonviolent offenders to be rehabilitated, and still protect our citizens.
Final issue, you are known for your climate change activism, and water is always a huge deal here in Fresno County and the agricultural community. What would a solution that you can come up with be to help these valley farmers with their water issues? What can we do to get more water to valley farmers?
Look, when I think about water in the state of California, this is a place where climate change is hitting our state very dramatically. And what it's going to mean, this is going to be a huge engineering problem for us. And the question is how to design a system that's going to enable us to both collect water more efficiently and use it more efficiently. So when we think about water going to, 80% of the water in California goes for agriculture. That's our biggest use. So the question is, how are we going to, I know that farmers are already moving to much more careful use of water in the way that they grow crops, much more specified. I think the issue is going to be throughout the state. The old days where we could just rely on the snowpack to store our water, collect and store our water for us, obviously that's changed. Regardless of how much precipitation we get and how we get it, we're not going to have the same kind of snowpack in a normal year that we used to have basically being our storage facility. So we're going to have to collect the water much better, and we're also to me, this is going to end up being a systems way of thinking with a lot more, believe it or not, software. The way that we measure use so that we actually become much more efficient in both ends, where we know where the water is going. We're very careful about it evaporating, and we're very careful about use. I think we're going to be, when I look at the comparisons on cost about how you collect and use water by the 1,000-acre foot, it seems to me overwhelmingly obvious that this is going to be an information-driven solution, and that's where the cheapest and most secure ways of increasing water, certainly for agriculture, but also for residential water use too. That's the way we're going to go, I think.